That's the problem with our academics today. That's a big problem. Whenever I speak about records, historians say, "Oh, we don't get all records." But Sejarah Melayu or King Arthur, these are all records. Do you want to debunk these records? Okay, and people like me, and people like my grandfather or your grandparents, start to say, "Don't you want to debunk that as an oral record which is not valid?" If we have that mentality, until today, we will not have history of Singapore. If you still think that oral record is a rubbish, then what's the point of having genealogy and having oral records and having expert oral academics? So along the way, when I was doing my research, I also gained knowledge from lots of friends. Most of my knowledge are all from friends, not me alone. I couldn't really achieve that learning curve of knowledge so fast. But I have friends who gave me feedback, the importance of genealogy. They asked me also, can you help me find the family? Can you help me find the other family? Can I find someone who's dead, where the graves are? So with all this information, actually, accelerated my learning curve. So from these experiences, I came up with this definition. This definition could be common. Some definitions could be unique, but this is how I see it. How I see genealogy, along the way. So what's written here is genealogy, also known as a family tree, has always been taken for granted. Nobody cares about genealogy today. They just say, "Oh, that's the past. Let's move forward." And they always say, "Move on, move on, move on." So that kind of mentality usually cause people to not care about their descendants. So there are people who really took care of their genealogy. In the past, royal families took meticulous effort to record details of every newborn and marriage to preserve their family lineage. Okay, in Nusantara, in this Southeast Asia, most of the Malay Sultanate, the royal families, they actually preserve the genealogy. Okay, they preserve the genealogy. So this sort of habit actually spilled out to the commoners like me, So it's not me, but probably my forefathers. They have oral record, but none of them actually drew any lines or any documentation. But they do remember where we came from. Okay, genealogy provides a way to connect with the past while building a future. It gives people a sense of origin while also creating a sense of pride. If you know your descendants, you have some pride. You'll know why do they come here. You know of their prowess. It maintains the social status of clan. It is a time capsule. And preserves culture. Last but not least, it establishes family rights when it comes to inheritance. That's important. Genealogy is an excellent primary source in rediscovering untold histories today. I call genealogy a primary source. Archaeologists have their own primary source, historians have their own primary source. But to me, because I'm not historian or archaeologist, so the only primary source I could think of are stories from people who are alive, before they die. These are sources you can get from them, and you can make history out of it. Okay, there are connections. A single line of genealogy could conceivably be so valuable that when multiple strands placed together could reveal one historical fabric of a forgotten clan or nation. You have a genealogy of A, you have genealogy of B, C, D, E, F. You put this together, it's actually a piece of history of a particular place. So that's what I think most of us are doing quietly. Same for me, when I was looking for history of the lost palaces, which I'm going to touch later. That was a big breakthrough for me. When I discovered the lost palace, I realized that there are stories behind it, and I started to look for it more. And from stories from people, some of them passed away already. Actually told me there is a house here, there is a palace here, there is an Istana here. There was an embassy, a consulate that served people of Pahang. And that's where I started to really keep looking for stories, and I uncovered 20 Istanas. Actually, there are more to come. which I'll share with you later. So this is how I define genealogy. Okay, when we know our genealogy, we will know our ethnicity. Okay, why is it important? It also debunks negative perceptions, like the boogeyman. Okay, I'm sure some of you heard of the boogeyman. No? Yeah, I know boogie. If you type boogie in YouTube, you know it's like a shake my boogie, that song. But you know, the word boogeyman actually came from the word Bugis. No? Okay, there are other versions. You know, the Bugis in Africa, boogeyman in South America, boogeyman in Japan. They have their own boogeyman. But then, from what I got in some old Dutch records, they actually classify the Bugis as boogeymen. They say the kids, if you don't sleep at night, the boogeyman will come. Boogeyman. This drawing was drawn by my son, Shakil Sarafian. Okay, so another record was also in the British collection. They said that this map belongs to the pirate. It's a pirate map, a pirate's chart. And when you look at it properly, the writings are all in Bugis. So the Europeans also classify the Bugis as pirates, because they couldn't control the spice trade. We don't want to go along their lines, and they call us pirates. So these are some of the misconceptions that we have now. And this is the famous one, Bugis Street. When you say Bugis, suddenly people think of the Bugis Street. Okay, this Bugis Street, see, you have all the people dancing. You have the transvestites here. So this was popular in Bugis Street. Okay, and you can see this Mat Salleh, this Angmo behind. Okay, just to sidetrack a bit, the word Mat Salleh comes from the word Mat Sailor. Mat Sailor, if you know about it. So why they call Mat Sailor? Because if they come to Singapore, they come to Bugis Junction and some other places, they got drunk and go crazy. So they were called Mat Sailor. So the Malay slang from Mat Sailor becomes Mat Salleh. So I hope you learned something today. So this was the misconception of Bugis Street. Okay, Bugis Street has lots of this scene in the 60s and even 70s. So from that genealogical journey that I wanted to start, I also started to interrogate the Bugis people, who they were, because I just want to clarify to people that the Bugis were a good lot. It's not what you thought of before. So I normally came up with all these questions of who, what, where, when, why, how. Okay, who they were Bugis. Okay, they were traders. They were mercenaries and kingmakers. They came from South Sulawesi. They were popular between the 14th and 20th century. So you see Bugis everywhere. They sail through the 14,000 islands in the Malay archipelago to trade. So when they trade, they will settle from one point to another. Okay? So they come to Singapore as early as that period, or even earlier. So when they say that the Bugis came to Singapore after Raffles say that it's a free port, I think that's not really true. They actually came in very early with even the Chinese and the Indians. Okay, why? Okay, because I want to know the Bugis presence in Singapore. Okay, at least I know why they were here before. Okay, how do I do this? How do I get about this mission? The only way I could do it is through genealogy. Okay, there are other areas where you can investigate your ethnic community. Okay, you can go to library, you can look for secondary resources. But then to me, another way is also to look at your genealogy, because genealogy tells a lot. Yeah? Okay, genealogy embracing history, culture, and moral values. Okay, so when I look at genealogy, it's the same thing again. I set up the same questions, the concept of me to investigate and interrogate my origins. So you see, how I go about it is I put, who? Family tree. What is it? Family heritage. Okay, I want to know what's the heritage. Okay, where? I have to look for family members to help me construct the genealogy. Okay, when? Okay, family timeline. Okay, from the members, from the people that you know, and you ask them what's the timeline. When was your father born? When your father passed away? What did he do? What's his experience? What did he see in Singapore? So these are the things that you can try later after this lecture. It's not lecture, presentation, it's not lecture. So after this, you can print screen this template. You can use this as a way to identify your family. And that's genealogy. Yeah, so whatever I share with you today, it's not just about me, not only about the Bugis, but you can use my presentation to identify your family as well. Okay, you can start up your genealogy right after this presentation. You check who's your father, who's your mother, who's your grandparents. Then from there, things just burst open. You will be very surprised what you can uncover. Okay. Why? Because you will know your family culture, the way they live, integrity. And how, okay, back again, appreciating genealogy. How do you appreciate? Okay, how do you look at it? Because genealogy is one powerful tool to identify your history. So you see, just now I've mentioned to you about the definition, right? So from here, all these stories, there are many ways that you can embark on to identify a genealogy. Some people, they were royal families, they want to know where they come from. I've got lots of friends who are of royal lineage in Singapore. The Bugis lineage, they call it Daing Chelak, Daing Mariwa. These were the Bugis prince that came to Asia, and they became the kings of Malaysia, the Selangor royal families. So there are people who come to look through their royal lineage. Some they look for their cultural inheritance. Some of them they look for their inheritance, their harta or their piece of land. To me, when I look at it, when I look at the name Bugis being everywhere, to me there is a pride. So what drove me is the sense of pride. Okay, why? Why were there lots of Bugis names? I want to know why. So that question drove me a bit crazy. Okay, why is ethnicity important? So that we know our origins and the choice of our forefathers have made to come to Singapore. Okay, so when you look at your genealogy, you will look at the forefathers that stepped into Singapore and why they choose Singapore as a place where they want to settle. Okay, their perseverance to prosper and excel have contributed to the rapid growth and pride of our nation. Okay, just after National Day, so I just want to share with you, why is it like this. So we look into the genealogy aspect of how I did my story. Okay, you can do the same thing as what I have done. Okay, and I'm still doing it. I'm still investigating, interrogating. So, family tree. Okay, who is family tree? So this is how you all can start to do your family genealogy. Okay, this is maybe some of you find it a bit complex. Yes, I agree. So you can start with the word me. The word me. From me, then you write who's your brother, your sisters. Then you write who's your father and your mother, your parents. Okay, this looks very paternal. Okay, it looks very paternal. Okay, logically paternal. The bloodline, the father's bloodline are the ones who continue. Okay, but when you do, you can also do father and mother. It'll be very complicated, but you will see your genealogy in a real three-dimensional form. Okay, genealogy is not two-dimensional; it's three-dimensional. See, sometimes when you look at the lineage of kings, it's always two-dimensional. But if you look at it properly, they marry second wife, third wife, or they have they remarry, or there is a death or birth or adoption. So you have a very three-dimensional genealogy. So for this one I'm showing you is just two-dimensional, but you can start off like this. Okay, you can start off with your father, your grandfather, great-grandfather. You keep asking them who your great-grandfathers were before. This will really help you identify the history of your family and eventually history of Singapore. Okay, history of a certain place. See how we all started. A simple family tree will make a big difference in how we see ourselves as a family, a country, and a nation. Because they tell you the stories of what happened in 1965, tell you what's happening in 1945, They have lots of stories, tons, You'll be very surprised. The best part is when you ask them, they'll be very surprised. Hey, you want to know our genealogy. These old people, when you ask them, they become very surprised. And without knowing, they will spill out everything they want to talk in. You start recording. You don't write. There's no point for you writing, because when you write, you'll miss lots of things. So you keep recording. Then they say, oops, I shouldn't have told you that, no? But that is actually the spice of the history. Just record it. So it's very important. Okay? So when I did my research, I found out that there is this great auntie of mine said, your grandfather was once a police officer. There is people from the archive who came in the 80s and interviewed him. So I typed my grand auntie's name, my late grand auntie, Sarima Binda's name, and this archive actually came out in the record, in the National Archive. Okay, very, very rare, no? For a commoner like me. I'm just a commoner. But then you see, they even write. So there's something special about my great-grandfather. Okay, Sarma bin Dasim was born in the year 1919 in Tanjung Ru. Okay, her father was actually Dasim, not Dasim, was a Bugis, and he worked as a police officer. So this is a piece of good news. And I discovered this story many years back, not many years back, I think about only 12 years ago. It was very recent, but things just poured in. So what is it? Okay, so I'm going to come back to that genealogy. Okay, so what? So when I know about him about being a Bugis, I start to look for the Bugis heritage. No, I just went off track to see the history of the Bugis, just to boil the interest. No? So I realized, the Bugis were quite fantastic, no? In those days, like, no? Now we try to be fantastic also. Okay, they were the founding fathers of trade in Singapore. Besides the Chinese, so the Bugis, the Chinese, the Indians, they were the traders. They were the mega traders, big traders. Okay, we have the Orang Lauts doing their own trade exchange of goods with the European settlers. But then when these big boys came to Singapore, they were really doing big trading. They come in hundreds of vessels. So there were period in Singapore where they call it the Bugis season and the junk season. The junk is the Chinese, so the Chinese junks will come, and when they come, alternately they will exchange, they will do barter trade. So my grand auntie told me, wrong spelling. Okay, my grand auntie told me that our forefathers were captains, sailors, and traders. So it was true. My great grandfather was a captain of a ship, okay, and his name actually appeared in history, and was recorded in University of Malaya. That one I'll share with you later. Okay, so but then these were the ships that they came. So you can see the Bugis ship approaching Kallang River, and you can see Fullerton Hotel today. It was very old. So this was typically a Bugis ship, and this Bugis ship is called Pinisi or Palari. Palari, you can see. And they sail very far. They sail from Sulawesi to Singapore, 1,800 kilometers. They sail to trade. So the Bugis people, they were maritime society. Okay, they were not Orang Laut. They don't live in the sea, but they use the sea as a means to trade. Okay, so these were the Bugis people during the olden times. Okay, this is how they dress. Okay, this Bugis Singapore. They even have records of how the Bugis people looked like before. And this is the hat they wear, the songkok. Okay, this is the Bugis of today. Okay, the Bugis today they dress up like that, and we still dress like that. No, I do get my friends together during ceremony to dress up just to relive the Bugis, and we actually share to the public that this is how the Bugis look like, and not in Bugis Junction, but the Bugis attire. Okay, so along the way, I also tried to discover Bugis food. I discovered the Bugis food were quite popular, and they have their own name, like this Coto Makassar, Epok-epok. Epok-epok in Bugis is called Jalang Kotak. Sounds odd, but that's Epok-epok. And it was claimed it was the origins from the Bugis. And this is Burasak. It's a Bugis ketupat. So I'll touch on this later in another lecture. So from that research, I discovered that the Bugis were quite colorful. They were quite well known in Singapore. You see, you have the Bugis chart. These are the sailing charts. So you have to look at the stamps and notes. You have Bugis ships on the $10 note, on the $100 note, and that's my cousin Fadli. His marriage. Okay, this was 2 years ago, and he really took effort to dress up like a Bugis couple. So that's a Bugis ceremonial attire. That's a Bugis man, and that's a Bugis Chris. You see behind here, I've got the collection of Chris, which I'm going to share with you later. So along the way, I also learned that there were lots of Bugis taboo, the pantang larang. Okay, this is just a fraction of a long list of the Bugis taboo. And one of the interesting one is the third one. Do not turn the fish. If you turn the fish, your boat will capsize. Yeah. It's just actually this type of taboo is just to remind the kids, don't turn the fish because there's lots of bones. If you turn the fish, lots of bones, if you were to just take the flesh, you will get choked by the bone. So these are the things that the Bugis seniors normally tell to the young ones, to the younglings, not to do that, not to do this. No? Okay, like the last one, do not sit on a pillow or your butt will swell. So this is one of the Bugis taboo, which I believe it also appear in the Javanese and Boyanese, but in a different form. So these are the things that I discovered. Okay, now we get back to the genealogy again. Okay, where do we get our genealogy? Okay, how I started my genealogy, where I got it. Now, this is the picture that really link us together. Okay, if you look at this picture on the left, Sarimah Dasim, she was one who gave the accounts of my great-grandfather or her father, Daing Dasim bin Daing Muhammad. So she gave this lady, this picture, Sarimah, the lady on the left, the old lady on the left, not the young ladies, the old ladies. Okay, so she was the one who gave the account of my great-grandfather. She tells lots of stories, so she's like a radio fusion, just keep talking, and I managed to record some and I wrote some. So and this conversation took place in the year 2007. So when she talked to me, everything that I recorded. Okay, this photo was also taken by me in 1986. So I took this photograph because my father's telling me, okay, go to the kitchen, take photograph, and this was in Kampong. So I took a photograph while she was cooking, but I didn't know that she will be the one that's going to help me open up the genealogy. So when I met her again in 2007 or 2008, about 2 years before she passed away, very sad. She told me everything from what my great-grandfather did, who my great-great-great-grandfather was, what was he doing. He was the first one to come to Singapore in the 1800. Okay, his name was Daing Saban. So she told lots of things. So she told me everything. Then I started to get excited, and I posted this photograph on my Multiply. Before Facebook, there was this social media called Multiply. So I posted in Multiply, and a year later, these two ladies on the top right, two ladies, they were my friends before. When I opened social media, I just add friends. So we were just friends. So, and she told me, hey, I think that's my grandmother. So this is the lady in stripe. Her name is Junita Samad. So and Norida Rahman. Okay? So these two ladies said, I think this is our grandmother. I said, huh? If it's your grandmother and it's my great auntie, then we were cousins. And I also know this gentleman here below, the one in red shirt. His name is Rahimi Wahab. He is the editor for the latest book being launched, Majulah and also Beyond Bicentennial. He's an editor. His name is Rahimi Wahab. So we were friends before that. We don't even know that we were cousins. But no. So when this Junita, the striped shirt lady, said, hey, we are cousins. Then she told her cousin Rahimi Wahab, they were cousins. And I contacted Rahimi Wahab. And it was like the happiest moment in identifying the Bugis ancestry. I was very happy. I was very happy that I started to draw, started to sketch the lineage. And they seem to know, and their father seems to know more about the history of my first cousins than me, myself, or my father. Okay, I hope my uncle still listen to this also. Because sometimes some people just can't be bothered to identify the genealogy. They just want to move on. But there are some people who really treasure. Because when you know a genealogy, it's all about family. It's about family, it's about integrity, it's about friendship. So gentlemen like Rahimi Wahab, Junita and Norida, and there are a few other cousins that I can't mention, a lot of them, they actually treasure their genealogy. And some of them actually related to the Bugis prince, Daing Mariwa. That one also will be a chapter of my presentation. So this thing kicks up my identify my genealogy. And that's the family, the Rahimi Wahab's family, on the other end of my line, which is Sarima and Dato' Omar. So from the genealogy, from this study, I discovered my great-grandfather's grave for the first time. Okay, that's me in Kubur Kasim. My great grandfather, in Dasim, the police officer, he was buried there. Okay, and that's and the bottom left is my grandfather, Sariman, which is the brother of Sarima. Okay, the picture in the center is Sarima, the purple-shirt lady. This was a time when I actually recorded her conversation about the lineage. She was so surprised that I wanted to do the genealogy. Some people say, oh, Sarafian, genealogy is an old-fashioned thing. Nobody wants to do genealogy because it's the past. Let's move on. But I said, no. To know the future is to know the past, and the present records it. So she started to sing. As she sang, I recorded. And because of my seriousness, my father said, oh, this bottom right picture is actually a picture of me. That's the little boy is me. Was me. Of the Bugis kampong in Pulau Tekong. So my ancestors actually came from Pulau Tekong. They had a piece of that land in Singapore, but they also stay in Pulau Tekong. So this is the family. This is the. Finally, I got this picture of Dasim, the one in black shirt. My grandfather is on the right side of the picture, which is the one folding the arms. That's my grandfather Sariman, and the man standing second from the right is my father. So they gave this picture to me. Okay, Sarafian, since you're serious in genealogy, I'll pass you this picture. This was given to me by one of my uncle, Kasim Sariman. So he said, you keep this picture. Since you're the one who's serious in genealogy, you keep it. So I've got lots of other pictures besides this. So this is a picture I showed you just now. Okay, that's my grandfather. You can see my grandfather, the one in yellow arrow. So you look at him and look at me. Do we resemble? He's a very serious guy. Dying Dasim. And I just want to have a sneak peek of my maternal lineage. Okay, you can see that. You can see here is my paternal, the red arrow on the left is my father, and the yellow arrow is my great grandfather. Okay. Then on the right side, the arrow, that's my mother. Okay, my mother is mixed blood. Okay, so that one I will share with you in our presentation, because maternal genealogy is also very complex. It goes all the way back to Holland. So the family timeline. So after I identify the families, after I identify Rami Wahab, after I identify, I got to know stories from Junita, Samad. I started to do the family timeline seriously. So look at it. That's the genealogy. Okay, my great grandfather. So I'm sure you all. I saw my friends, my Chinese friends. Their genealogy is so detailed. They even have photographs of their great grandfather. And if they don't have photograph, they sketch it or they paint it. It was really awesome. Really awesome. No? They really took pride in their genealogy. And for me, I think our family missed the boat. We didn't do any painting or drawing. So it's quite difficult. But at least we start something. Okay, so the family tree is a window to history. One way to know your culture is to draw a family genealogy, which I wish you all would do this after this presentation. Okay, rumors also mentioned that I belong to the certain Bugis royal lineage. They said that, hey, Sarafian, I think you belong to some royal lineage. So I said, sure or not? No? The only way is to check. So I began my investigation. See, this is a full-blown in 2005 of my genealogy. So you look below there, they're all my cousins and my sisters and everything. So you can see Rahimi Wahab, you can see Junita and other cousins. So some of the people who were my friends, they were actually my cousins. And this thing's still growing. It's still growing. So this is just Sariman, this is just my grandfather lineage. And some of them actually bore more children here. And this thing just kept going horizontal until the Isle of Bintan, Riau Islands, and even Gunung Daik, which I'm still rediscovering. Okay, just to tell you that one of the lineage actually went to Okinawa also. So this is a big story which I'll share also later on. So this is the genealogy that I did beginning 2010 until 2015. Yeah. So I stopped there because there's just too much. I have to really expand the network. and I'm still discovering and rediscovering. So this is a typical genealogy, you know, of the royal family. Okay, of this picture just to show you that a royal lineage from K. Shaha in Kuala Lumpur. She was the one who actually tell me the mechanics of how to do a good genealogy, and she showed me, you know, the lineage of the kings from the Bugis Empire. So if I were to do my genealogy, seriously, it could be as long as this. Okay, so from the knowledge of doing genealogy, you know, I became a bit adventurous because somebody told me that no, I belong to the lineage of kings. So I started to examine the lineage of the Malay and the Bugis royal family in Asia and Singapore. So this is what I did. So I did all this with the help of a scholar, a lecturer, Professor Carl Trocky. So he actually looked at it. So this is what I did. So I did it. I realized that, I don't belong to any of them. I'm just an enthusiast. But when I did this genealogy of kings, I started to uncover istanas. I started to uncover istanas in Singapore. Okay, not these two istanas. Okay, these two istanas are the popular ones we know in Singapore. The Istana President, Halimah Yaakob, and also the Istana Kampung Glam, okay, Sultan Hussein. So these are the two istanas that we know today. Okay? But there are more istanas in Singapore. You know, from the genealogy, from the families, from the cousins of the kings. So I realized that there were lots of istanas in Singapore that we have forgotten. We have forgotten, not properly recorded, and it just disappeared. So these are the istanas I discovered also. So just imagine, from genealogy, you discover lots of things. You discover lots of hidden details of Singapore. Singapore is so colorful. Yet, no, we thought that Singapore started in the year, 1819 or 1965. But Singapore has really very deep history. See, you can see the Istana Tarsal, which I think near Bidadari. That's Istana Bidadari. You have Istana Perak. You have Istana Air Gemuruh. In Air Gemuruh, you know where? If you go to Changi Airport, the runway for Terminal 2, there was once an Istana there. I'm sure you're surprised. So these are the Istanas that we see in Singapore before. Istana Mahligai Pahang at Sime Park, at this MacRitchie, the golf course there. So there was an Istana there before. Yeah, I met the family, and they actually testified there was an Istana there before, and a few other Istanas. So this is just, okay, I'll just sidetrack a bit. This is just one of the Istana that I want to share with you. It was once at Mount Faber, and it was known as Radin Mas Primary School. Okay. It was built in the year 1840 by Daing Ibrahim for his son, Engku Khalid. So they built this Istana at this Mount Faber, and it became Istana for him and his family. And in the year 1921, they all left, and it became a school. It became a school, Radin Mas Primary School, until 1980. Today, if you go there, you don't see this thing anymore. You will see Pearl Condominium. Very sad, huh? So all these are gone. So these are just one of the many structures in Singapore that was once Istana and now became a condominium or just a park. Okay. So this is the power of genealogy. I just want to share with you, this is actually the power of genealogy. From genealogy, you uncover something that you really don't expect. You can find a piece of land that belongs to you once upon a time. No? So these are some of the adventures you can take. You realize that suddenly your neighbor that you were always angry with are related to you. Okay, so these are really surprising stuff that you can rediscover. Okay, why? Okay, why I do this genealogy? Okay, firstly, I want to know that I discovered that the Bugis, they were maritime society, and and I also discovered why they sail, why there were lots of competitors at the time. Until this gentleman, Sultan of Makkah, said that God has made the earth and the sea and has divided the land amongst men and made the sea common to all. This is the kind of a pledge the Bugis took, that the earth is free for all, no boundary. That made them want to sail. And when they think of God, they know that they will be safe to sail. And they sail as far as Madagascar. They sail as far as the Polynesian Islands. Some myths say they sailed to America. I don't know, but possibly. So they were sailors. They were sailors to trade. Of course, there are times when they sail, they also try to colonize. They try to colonize certain island and make it their settlement. So you see, this so from the genealogy again, I mentioned to you, this is what I've discovered about the Bugis. Okay, biggest powerful kingdom in Indonesia, maritime trade network were highly sought after by regional consumers. Okay, they trade spice, tortoise shell, bird's nest, opium, gold dust, silk, and slaves. Okay, when it says slaves, it's actually not slaves. Not that bad after all. They were just laborers, but before they called it slaves. Okay, so these are some of the histories. No? When the Dutch came in, they actually don't want to compete with them. They move out and they started to settle in Singapore, in Malaysia, Kalimantan, even Thailand. Okay, so just want to touch a bit on the Bugis. The Bugis, they have one of the longest scripts in the world. Okay, they have one of the longest scripts in the world. Approved, mentioned by this UNESCO. Okay, it has 6,000 pages, and just to share with you, this is actually the simplified version of the Bugis script. So this is very simple. Based on what they've mentioned and studied, this book is still incomplete. There are still lots of things to rediscover. There was a period of time in the Bugis world in Sulawesi where everything was forgotten. Everything was in a turmoil state, and they actually discovered this book, and this book actually put them back on the right path. So this Lagaligo actually has lots of things. They have law, order. They have reminders of doing good things. They have maritime culture. They also have instructions of the art of dressing. So this thing just came back, and they actually reclaimed back their identity through this book. So this is just to show you the memories of the world. Okay, this are some of the Bugis historic achievements. 7th century, Srivijaya, 4th century. Okay, these are the Bugis charts. Okay, Bugis charts. So when you go to Bugis Junction, you just imagine this picture. They were not just Bugis people. They were maritime navigators. They were scholarly people. They have all these charts written for sailing. If you look at the right, if you look at the picture on the right, okay, you look at, there is in the middle of the chart, there is this blown tree. This are actually annual charts of the weather before they sail. Sorry. Okay, it was also mentioned that the Bugis came from the descendants of Prophet Solomon, and there's a Queen of Balkis, Balkis in Sheba in Yemen. So these are some of the myths. Some say it's true, some say it's myth. To me, I just absorb first, and I'll decide later. Okay, so the word Balkis, Queen Balkis. People say that the word Bugis probably would come from the word Balkis. Okay, this is the lineage of the kings from Siti Malangkik. Malangkik is actually this Balkis. Okay, all the way until the 5th prince, in the modern era, which is actually 1699. Okay? 1721, when they came to Asia and they captured captured Johor, and Daeng Chelak is the lineage of all the Selangor kings today. If you look at Selangor, the Selangor descendants, the royal families, they were from the Chelak. And if you look at the Johor, Sultan of Johor, Sultan Ibrahim, he came from the lineage of Daeng Parani. So they were of Bugis descent. Okay, these are some of the things I want to share with you, the Bugis Syrian Apresi, pride and honor. So whenever they have problems, they will try to settle. But if they can't settle, they'll go into one sarong and they'll just stab to death. So whoever who died is a loser. So these are the things the Bugis were practiced before. Okay, so this just to share with you Bugis settlements in Singapore. Okay, this is how it looked like before when the Bugis came to the shore, came to Singapore shore. Yeah, I drew this. I just drew one of them, and this picture was taken by me in Singapore, in East Coast. So I just want to show to you how it looked like. I just draw one and I cut and paste the rest just to show the intense atmosphere of how the Bugis came to Singapore. But this is what was reported in the colonial papers in the year 1838 by one of the Europeans. Said they were invaded, but the chief said no, it's not invasion. It's just the Bugis coming to trade. So this was how it looked like before. These are some of the quotes the Bugis had by the British people, Sir Raffleson. They say the Bugis, they are slow and deliberate in their decisions. Okay, but these once formed are final. Agreements once entered into are invariably observed and on their part. And the Bugis is never known to swerve his bargain. So in short, when the Bugis said, okay, I'll take it, he'll take it. He will not back off. Okay, either take it or fight. That's all. So it's like that. Okay, so the Bugis character also very, according to some people, they say the Bugis also very hot-tempered. Hot-tempered, they were very abrupt, they want to be fast. I think it's all because of the sailing nature, maritime nature. You know, when you want to sail, you got to be very quick, you got to be very precise. If you give a wrong command, or if you are late, that's it. So to have all this in place, they are very, very aggressive, they're very abrupt, and they want things to be done in a very quick manner. So that's just probably how the Bugis character was sculptured. So this is just some of the information which I want to share with you. Okay, Bugis town was once smack in the middle of Kampung Glam. That was in the 17th century, 16th century, you know, until they have to move out to the Kampung Bugis in Rochor. Which is this map now, which is overlaid. See the Bugis, you know, the Bugis, the Malays are already a minority in Singapore, and the Bugis is a minority of the minority of the Malay race. So we are a minority of the minority. So we are very, very small. Yet I want to try to inculcate the sense of awareness of the Bugis people in Singapore, together with some of my friends. So it's not tough actually. You know, if you really like something, if you like what you do, you can achieve it in no time. So these are some of the photographs of the Bugis, Kampung Bugis. All the ships all stay there. And you look at Merdeka Bridge on the left. So the Bugis ships, the tall ships on the extreme left couldn't sail into the Rochor River and Kallang River, so they park outside. So those of you who remember Beach Road in the 70s, you probably see this Bugis ships parked along the beach of Beach Road. So these are some of the research I did, narratives, oral records, and interviews. I realized that the Bugis settlements were actually at all these red markings which I've marked. So there are lots of Bugis settlements. So you see in Bedok area, in Pasir Panjang a lot. You have in Tanjung Gul, in Tuah, the industrial area, there was also a Bugis kampung. Then you have these Bugis people somewhere in the live firing area, Bajau, Amakeng, Neo Tiew. There were lots of Bugis settlements there. When I was a little boy, my grandmother said, let's go to Kampung Bajau. So Kampung Bajau is somewhere in Amakeng, in Lim Chu Kang. So there were lots of Bugis kampungs in the 70s, 80s. After that, totally about development. So you see, from there on, I realized, so because of that, we have lots of these Bugis landmarks all over the shop. Okay, surviving traditions. Okay, in 2007, I started off this social media, Bugis Temasek. Some of you might have came across it. Some of you might have not. If you have not, you just join my page. You'll learn a lot about the Bugis from my friends. Not only me, but my friends will also share topics of the Bugis, share information about the history of Singapore. You can also learn from there, and you can also ask questions, and friends will answer, and some of my friends will answer. If not me, someone will answer. Someone more competent. Okay. So this was established by me and my friend, Mr. Wafi Udin. Okay, he's very competent in language. He's very young. I think he's 30 years old. He's in 30s, early 30s. But his passion in history and language made him actually grasp the Bugis language fluently. So I got to know him 13 years ago. He was very young then. And because of his interest, I asked him, "Can you want to open a social media to attract the Bugis community?" He said, "Okay." So we started off until we actually got attention. We got media attention, and they interviewed us about 3-4 years ago about the Bugis in Singapore. So that's him. So until now we are still friends. So we are still doing our own research. exhibition, all this stuff. So he's one of the cool guy. So this is how we started. So we started off with a Bugis interest, and there were many times that we wanted to start our own society, but no, we have to get lots of approval from the government. So until such time, I think the year 2016, then we started off with we formed up a Bugis society with friends. So this blog is still ongoing. So you look at all my friends all dressed up in the Bugis attire. It was a long way since we started. So this is the Bugis Malay Society Singapore. The founding members was established in 2016 or 17. Yeah. So I was the vice president here. That's Raja Khalid, the president. And these are all the members, all the people who actually got together, and we did an exhibition in Malay Heritage Centre. So this to me, this was a very successful thing, because when I first started in 2007, some people laughed. Are you sure Bugis society will come up? Are we going to have any exhibition, or Bugis is just just the signboard and there's nothing. So it was a challenge for us. Because of that, we start to get together and think of some ways to make people be aware of who the Bugis people were and who the Bugis people are. So we had our own exhibition. And I also did some survey about genealogy. I always believe in genealogy, because if you know your genealogy, it means you're really serious about your origins. So I came up with a survey. Okay, so I'm sorry, this is Malay. It was actually done in the year 2015. So 2015, I started to do a survey on genealogy. Okay, so I came up with these 3 questions. So the 3 questions are, okay, I am a Bugis and I have my family genealogy. Okay, how many people has that? Then I am a Bugis and I do not have a family genealogy. Okay, you know that you're a Bugis, or you know that you're Hokkien, but you don't have a genealogy. Then the last question is, I think I'm a Bugis. Okay, you just think somebody say you're a Bugis. Okay. So from here, I was quite surprised that my group, the Bugis Temasek group, actually has many people who kept their genealogy, and this is still growing. So I was very surprised that they have their genealogy, but why can't they come forward? Why didn't they want to share with the world, with Singapore, with fellow Singaporeans that I have a genealogy of Bugis? So sometimes same for me. I was also trying to share, but I don't have the guts. So now with friends together, it's easy for me to share. Then again, I felt that this genealogy is still very private until I met Mr. KK, Jerome, and Cyprian. He said, "Hey, Sarafian, we want you to have to share with your genealogy." No, I felt very honored. I said I thought that the Bugis genealogy is something very isolated on its own. But when they came forward to me and said that, "Hey, Sarafian, we want to know your genealogy," no, I was happy. I was really surprised. Finally somebody wants to know. Then I realized that the Genealogy Society Singapore is actually very established. They have their own genealogical family, their interest group. I think it's a bonus on you. Just some languages. How are you, Agak Kariba? I'm fine, Pamanaching. Okay, talking about the Bugis language. I also have a friend. Her name is Nurhati. Kak Nurhati. Okay, she said to me, "Sarafian, you don't worry. If you don't know speak Bugis, as long as you can say how are you, and I'm fine, the Bugis spirit will just come to you." Her name is Nurhati Saad. So she said, so she tell me, if you know how are you or Agak Kariba, not Agak apa khabar, but Agak Kariba in Bugis, then I'm fine, Kariba Madacheng. Said once you can mention these 2 words, you are Bugis. Okay, so this is what is her perspective, which I believe is true. I could feel the aura. Okay, just hang on. Let me just take my tracer. You hold on.
Can I ask questions to you? Sarafian?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. I must congratulate you in the amount of research you have done. I, in fact, feel ashamed of myself as a genealogist. So the amount of research I do is nothing compared to what you have done, you see. I hope whatever you have done, you preserve it and you will hand it down to future generations for them to expand, to build upon, you see. All right?
Definitely.
Don't ever lose the works that you have, so the fantastic work you have done, you see.
Definitely.
Now, one questions that I have to ask you.
Yeah.
In the case of Bugis, how do you define it to be a Bugis? Do you just follow the father's side, or because you have a Bugis blood, therefore you are Bugis? Right?
Okay.
The direct.
Okay. Can I touch on that question after my presentation? Maybe you raise it. It's very interesting. That's a good question. It's a very good question.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I just want to continue with my presentation first. I'll answer that. Okay. Back to the Bugis. If you look at the crest, okay, this also signifies a Bugis crest. Okay. If you remember my speech earlier on, we are maritime community. We are maritime community. So if you look at the crest also looks like a ship. It looks like a big ship. Okay, so this ship actually signifies a Bugis clan. Okay, he will always put it on his waist in front, and they will walk on the streets. So when the other communities see this guy walking, say, oh, this guy is a Bugis trader. And the size of the crest also signifies his status. Okay, like this big crest signifies a sea captain. So the other community, the Chinese or the Indians or the Malabar, say, oh, this guy is coming and he's probably the captain. Then they'll start to do trading. So this crest, apart from being a tool of deterrent, that means when you discuss with me, make sure it's serious. It also shows his status symbol. Okay, so for now, it's just collector's item. Okay, so this is a Bugis crest. I just want to share with you. Okay, this is how the blade looks like. Maybe some of you have not seen the crest. So that's when I give a talk or lecture, heritage walk, I'll also bring my crest to show people, because some of them really want to touch a crest, but they feel scared. So this is how the crest looks like. This is a Bugis crest, very huge, very huge and very sturdy. So this is a Bugis crest. Okay, let me just get back to my presentation. So behind there are lots of other Bugis crests, Malay crests, you've got all the swords. So these are some of the collection that I have. Don't worry, Philip, I'm finishing. It's almost finished. Okay, so these are some of the collections. You have the Bugis fabrics. So these are all items of trade during the Bugis period in Singapore and Asia. So this is a typical Bugis wedding. You can see today. Okay, this is Bugis architecture. Okay, the Bugis house normally they have very very right angle squarish house. And they also have the spiritual beliefs of how the Bugis construct their houses. This is very interesting. They're very spiritual people. So I know when I put myself back in time when I was discovering Bugis, which I think Bugis are just nothing other than just signboard. They actually have lots of things. Their culture is really very steep, very deep. But it's not really, people don't really pay attention to these details, especially the Bugis people. So this is one of the houses in Kampung Bugis. Kampung Bugis. See, in Kampung Bugis, they had this mosque. Okay, I'm not so sure whether it has been constructed or not, but I do have a friend who said that there is a mechanic who owns a workshop in Bugis, Kampung Bugis. He said that he actually saw this building there. It's a property of Encik Dola. So from all my heritage experiences and passion, I also conduct heritage tours together with a Singapore Heritage Society. That's Miss Trilene. I also do it with my active member, Temasek Rural Explorer Enthusiast, and also with another group, my community, Mr. Leong, the popular one. So he's one of those who regularly organize such tours, and I will take that opportunity to share with Singaporeans what the Bugis culture is today and was before. I also share with them what the cultures that has been lost over time, so at least they know that the Bugis culture was so colorful before and what are the things that we keep until today. Okay, so these are some of the Bugis exhibitions I'm actively involved in with my friends, Encik Ibrahim Arif and Haslina Ja'aman. Okay, so we also organize such functions, Bugis events for Temasek Polytechnic. So Temasek Polytechnic, they said, can you do a cultural event? So we do. Yes, so only last week I just finished doing a Zoom event with Singapore Polytechnic about Bugis. Okay, because they just want to know what the Bugis are. Very interesting. The names are so huge, yet many people don't really know about us. So it really gave me the opportunity to share. It's very interesting. Okay, so I also do a guided tour to the boys of Montfort Primary School. I was from Montfort before, so the teacher says, since you're from Montfort, you come back and contribute. So I brought them to Fort Canning, I brought them to Teluk Belanga. I thought they were not interested, but the kids of today, they really have a very different concept compared to me at their age. Before I really grow up, I don't care so much about them. But then they are more geared, more tuned to accept such historical facts. And the questions they threw on to me was really very, very, very intriguing. I couldn't answer sometimes. So these kids of today, they are really very, very, very unique. So these are the colorful, the united colors of the Bugis. Mostly checkered. You have the silat. The silat was actually led by our friend here. You can see this guy with the yellow shirt, Andi Faisal. So he's expert in the martial arts. Then we have a few others. I think that's my son in green. So these are the things that we successfully have shared with the public. And this was only this year. Okay, it's really interesting. Because of genealogy, the journey identifying the culture, I split interest to many people, to the media. So they want to know what have I done. I also discovered lots of lost graves from just doing genealogy. So genealogy made me discover lost graves, lost istanas, lost identity. I also discovered the lives of orang laut. So it's really eye-opening. So if you do your genealogy today, you'll be surprised that what you stumble upon is something you really don't expect. Okay, just try it. So it all started from here. So from this simple line drawing, it proves how far a simple genealogy could bring you. And what I've shown you today is what I have experienced. Okay, so this presentation has shown that the art of genealogy has helped us rediscover the history of our family, culture, and nation. It instills a sense of pride, a sense of belonging and love for Singapore, a place we call home. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I wish I could say more. Okay, Mr. Philip, I think you asked you something.
Yeah, thank you, Sarafian. Philip has a question. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, so would you like to start answering that question?
Okay, Philip, I think you're asking about how do you identify your... Okay, it's all about adopting the identity. I have a choice. Okay, let me just be open a bit, but I can't go delve deeper into that. I am of a Bugis descent from my father's lineage. Okay. My mother's lineage, my mother's lineage is a mix. My maternal grandfather is a Dutch. My maternal grandmother is a Hokkien. So it's a choice for me to adopt which lineage. But you see, sometimes you see the dominant. When you're born, when you live, as you grow up progressively, what a dominant culture that your family has adopted. And that actually drives me to go into the Bugis culture. To find my Dutch descent, Dutch descent is a bit complex. But I've already discovered about 200 names. which I will talk later, but I've got to ask permission from my mother before I talk about that. Then the Hokkien, my surname Hokkien is Ui, O-O-I. So that's O-O-I. So that's my maternal side. So but my father, simple. It's just bin. Sarafian bin Salleh bin Sariman bin Dasim bin Muhammad bin Sabman. So this generation. So it's just like that. That's how I chose to talk about the Bugis genealogy, and that's how I remember my auntie said that, oh, Bugis, when she shot at Bugis, it reverberated the entire part of my body. And I said, okay, I think we are Bugis, cursed or be cursed, it's still Bugis. So that's how I embarked on the Bugis journey. And there are, and it's not only me alone. When I met Rahim Wahab, when I met Junita, they were saying that they were Bugis families. So it's the Bugis that they took pride of. Okay, then again, to answer Dr. Philip's question, is also a matter of choice. Okay, especially you're in between. In between. Okay. Then maybe you can even choose a Dutch or Hokkien blood. So for me, I chose Bugis because firstly, it's paternal. It's paternal line. Secondly, it's what I heard when I was young. Okay, that's my answer.
So Sarafian said that he drew his genealogy on a patrilineal basis because the family is a patriarchal family.
Yes.
For him. Yeah.
Unlike the Minangs, they are matriarchal, so they have the female lineage.
What about, since we're talking about it, what about the larger Malay community in the Nusantara? Are they more of patriarchal or matriarchal, or there's a mix?
Okay, majority patriarchal. Majority patriarchal. The lineage of kings that I showed you earlier on, they're all patriarchal.
Okay.
They all look at the male lineage.
So in the Nusantara world, mostly patriarchal, except the Minang.
Yes.
That is also as far back as the pre-Islamic age.
Yes, exactly. So? Yes, all the way back to pre-Islamic. Like if you look at the Putri Balkis, right? The Balkis lineage, origin of Bugis, it's all patriarchal.
Okay, I see. Okay. So, Sarafian, do you see any question in your chat box? Because I cannot see anymore.
Sarafian.
Yes.
My name is Priscilla. I have a question for you.
Yes, Priscilla.
The crease that you saw, that you show, has 7 curves. Am I right?
Yes.
And why is it curved? Because the Japanese used to commit suicide if they did not do well, do something honorable in a war. So they normally, I was told that is a kind of knife that they will stab their intestine because it's a very deadly weapon.
Yes.
They stab the intestines and all it comes.
Yes. There is a procedure of stabbing also.
Can you? Is it true or am I?
Okay. If you look
Can you talk a little bit about the crease 7 curves?
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
welcome.
Very good. Excellent. I really love your presentation.
Okay, let me take another quiz. Let me take a look. Hold on.
Yeah. Okay, so everyone for coming for
Okay, talking about Chris. Okay, a Bugis Chris typically is not curvy. It's just a straight blade. Okay. If you look at Bugis Chris, this is typically a Bugis Chris. It's a straight blade. They don't have curves. The curved ones are of Malay influence. They go to Malay, they go to Java, then they adopt the curve. So the Bugis Chris is straight because it actually built in accordance to their principle of life. Straight. Straight. They don't want to be considered as somebody who's fickle-minded or undecisive. Like if you look at the characters of Bugis, which I say about sailing, right? They will be very, very definite. They'll be very abrupt. So it's built along the lines of the Chris, which is straight. So this is typically a Bugis Chris, or they call it Sapukala or Sapokal. Okay. Just one blade. Okay. Now killing is the same. No, you when you kill from a straight blade, they normally will do some twisting here and there to cause damage. But when you look at the curved blade, The curved blade will cause more damage. You know, because why? It's curvy. It's curvy. When you as you step into the body, it will hit left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right until you get a very big orifice. And then they just wrench it to bleed. Okay, that is the mechanical part of it. Because I'm a mechanical engineer, so I look at the mechanical aspect of the crease. But then again, in the Malay concept, a crease with the number of waves denotes his rank or denotes his appointment. Okay, for crease with three waves, normally pahlawan or warrior. They call it lot tiga. Then you have lot lima. Okay, lot lima probably, I may be wrong. There are some experts here. 5 will be the bendahara. Then you have 7. Okay, you have 7. This is 7. So all these waves has its own meaning. I can post this in Bugis Masih later on. You can see the concept of this wavy. So the wavy denotes different status and appointment. Okay, but for the Bugis, they prefer to have a straight blade. This is also a Bugis blade, but it's of Sumatra influence. So to go to the next step of your question is, when I did my collection, my crease collection, it actually helped me identify my genealogy as well. It helped me identify the diasporic community or the migration nature of the Bugis. When the Bugis settled in Sumatra, they built a crease of this picture of this shape. When they settled in Malaysia, they built a crease of a particular shape. So the crease also tells how the Bugis migrate. That's my answer.
Bro, can I ask you one question? Can you? It's me.
Oh, Faisal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't you show them about difference between the blade that you show, the crease, and the lopo batang that you have? That means the badik.
The badik. Okay.
Which is a primary weapon that we always use.
Okay. Hold on. Let me take the badik. Okay, thanks Faisal. Okay, Auntie Faisal, just to share with you, he's the expert in the martial arts, which I mentioned his name earlier on. Okay, this is the badik. Now, in the Bugis weapon, in the Bugis attire, the crease is actually a symbol of the symbol of an attire. Okay, on top in Malay they say perhiasan. Okay, but the primary weapon, the weapon of choice, the weapon of combat is the badik. This is called a badik. Okay, badik. So the badik is the primary weapon. Okay, it's short, it's close quarter combat. Okay, and this is how badik looks like. Badik. So this is called badik jantung. Looks like a heart. So this is what they used to fight. Okay, you can hold this way, you can hold this way, you can fight. So this is the primary weapon. So this primary weapon they usually put it on the side, on the side. And if let's say if they really want to fight, or they want to show to their opponent that they mean business, they want to settle it once for all, they will actually push out and push the blade this way. They open the blade halfway like that, and they come forward, and he'll tell the opponent that I'm not happy with you, no, let's settle. So that's the Bugis concept. So this is the primary weapon, the badik. So the badik will be one on the side, the crease will be one in front. So they normally carry 2 side arms. So that's Bugis. But you don't see them wearing today, on the streets. They only wear it during the ceremonial or events. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah. Any more questions? Sorry, Sean, you have any?
Jerome, can I ask?
Yes. Mr. Tan Kun Siang has a question.
Yeah. Sarafian,
Yes, sir.
my ancestors come from Malacca.
Yes.
And according to history, we are known as the Malacca Chinese,
Yeah.
and it seems that they traded extensively with the Bugis
Oh, that's
in
cool.
Singapore.
Oh, that's nice.
All right. Now, my question is, what was the motivation for the Bugis to travel from Sulawesi to Singapore?
Oh, that's good.
Were
question.
they in search of adventure, or were they in search of profit, or were they driven out by the Dutch?
Okay.
Mm.
There are lots of misconceptions and also beliefs that in the year 1669 there was a diaspora. Okay, when I talked to Professor Wang Gungwu earlier this year, because he was also one of those people who actually helped me contribute. He contributed to my book. I'm actually doing a book many years right now, but it's going to be a very solid one. He said to me, Sarafian, don't use the word diaspora, because the Bugis and the Chinese didn't run away from the island. They come to trade. So it sets me thinking that the Bugis were not running away from the Dutch, nor the Chinese running away from some enemies. No? They just come here freely to trade. They come here to trade. They bore children. Some of them decide to live here and not going back to their country. Okay, you see, the people, when you read texts, they say the Bugis ran away from Sulawesi in the year 1669 because there was a Perang Makassar. There was a war, civil war. They said that the Bugis left Sulawesi because of the Dutch. If you look at some of the historical records, like this book, it's not a huge book, Tuah al-Nafis. I think. So this Tuah al-Nafis is actually a history of the Bugis. They mentioned that the Bugis has actually came to Singapore as early as the 7th century, as early as the 11th century. Why Teluk Blangah got its name? Because the Bugis gave it Mabalangor, which means anchorage. So the Bugis has been coming to Singapore very, very frequently. And when the Bugis traded in Singapore in Teluk Blangah, there were already Chinese kampungs. There were already people, Chinese with long hair. If you look at the book Golden Personist, they mentioned that there were Chinese and also the natives that plunder ships that pass across the narrow straits. They were also pirates with the Malays there in Teluk Blangah. So it's just Singapore was already a happening port. And the Bugis were already trading in those periods. So to say that the Bugis travel due to the Dutch, I think that was something very, very subjective. Okay, the motivation of the Bugis sailing to Asia, to Singapore, even to Madagascar, is to trade. They look for wealth. They look for wealth. They trade to expand their business. Okay, there are lots of Bugis traders, landowners in Singapore before. I also have it in my records. So they just come to trade. The motivation is to trade. The motivation is to reinvent things. They get the Chinese silk. They get the pattern from the Indians, so then they create their own Bugis fabric. Okay, the Chinese want sea cucumber. Sea cucumber, right? In Bugis called trepang. The Bugis actually went all the way to Australia to harvest all the sea cucumber and sell to the Chinese. They sell to the Chinese because the Chinese will pay them very highly. And this trade has been going on since 15th century, 16th century, until the Dutch came. When the Dutch came, they didn't use Makassar as their exchange port for this sea cucumber, but used Singapore. So that's the motivation. They just get wealthy. In the year 1790, in the year 1800, they say that one Bugis ship, when they trade with the Chinese or with anybody in Singapore, they could make as much as $4,000. Okay, I can't remember. I don't know how they calculate $4,000 in that time, but that was equivalent of what they make at that era. So today, $4,000 would be a lot. So that motivates the Bugis to come. Okay, I've got accounts of some of the Bugis sailors, which I went to Makassar, and also some people in Kalimantan that came forward to me and shared with me the stories. That'll be another long story. But they said to me they love Singapore. They come to Singapore. Some of them, they came to Singapore to check their harvest of babies. So every 6 months they come over here and say, oh, now my wife gave birth baby. They go back there, they have another family, coming another family. So there's lots of families. So luckily the Muslim can let them marry for, so they have families everywhere. So some of them settled here, some of them they just went back there. When Makassar was declared a free port in the year 1843, so lots of Bugis actually went back to Makassar. But some of them they settled in Singapore. So that's the motivation. Wealth.
Okay, so Mr. Tan has Sarafian answered your questions.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jerome.
Yes.
Okay, so we have another question coming in from Rami.
Yes.
She said that what percentage of what you have said is oral history? Because as we know from Western point of view, right, anything that is oral is not official historical record compared to written record. And this will have an impact on your research and claim with regard to Bugis history. So how much of what you say is oral?
Okay, that's the problem with our academics today. That's a big problem. Whenever I speak about records, historians say, oh, we don't get all records. But Sejarah Melayu or King Arthur, these are all records. Do you want to debunk these records? Sejarah Melayu is an oral record. The other texts I don't mention are also of oral record. Okay, those were mentioned 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago. Okay, and people like me, and people like my grandfather or your grandparents start to say, don't you want to debunk that as an oral record which is not valid? If we have that mentality, until today we will not have history of Singapore. If you still think that oral record is a rubbish, then what's the point of having genealogy and having oral records and having expert oral academics in NUS to see, oh, oral records are good? Because I do have met with one. I do speak to one of my friends, Kasing, I think, from NUS. I asked him, how valid is oral record? He says, Sarafian, to make an oral record very valid, we need to have at least about 3 or 4 people who have the same thinking. That oral record could be true. Okay, then again, Mr. Ravi, I don't say that what you say is not correct. Yeah, there are some oral records that was being romanticized or sensationalized to make things look good. Okay, so that is all up to us to justify whether the record is valid or not. But whatever it is, whatever you collect today after this presentation from your parents, even if you find it very, very fairy tale, it's best you record it, because this fairy tale has a reason for it to be fairy tale. It has a reason to be mentioned. Okay, like you say, Singapore dilanggar todak, the swordfish attack Singapore. Okay, I think it sounds very funny, very rubbish, but there are reasons to why it's called a swordfish attack Singapore. There are reasons to that. So this all records which sounds very mythical, very fairy tale, there are reasons behind why is it mentioned. So if you were to do any interview with your family, just write it down, because you may have some other information that may overlap that oral record, and this oral record could be true. Okay, that's my answer.
Yeah, so Sarafian said that there must be some reason behind this oral history.
Yes.
Yeah, and we need to look further into it,
Exactly.
Yeah, and it might not be just a Western point of view. We have our own point of view.
Yeah, the Westerns always say that our records are rubbish, but they have their own set of problems.
So it's a matter of perspective, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have a raised hand from a person with ID Huawei Nova 3i. Do you have something to say?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, Fali, yes.
Yes.
Hey, what's the question?
I don't know. Can you hear?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, actually, my question is, by the way, congrats Sarafian Salleh de Bugis on this talk. On the minority of Buginese in Singapore, is it due to because that they are, because of being labeled, they are afraid of, because we are being labeled as a pirates and boogeyman? And most of the ladies are labeled as a very garang, which means it's a fierce. And also, actually we are not fierce. Actually, I am not fierce. I hope I am not.
Keep saying that.
But it's just that because maybe we because of we believe in stand for the rights.
Yeah. Okay. I answer. Okay. Actually, this reminds me back to my early teenage days when my sister, when my sister has friends, then my parents told her, don't say you're Bugis. If you're Bugis, you won't get married. So then it sets me thinking also. Then they say that they say that the Bugis ladies are fierce. But as I grow older, as I mix around, I find that all the ladies are fierce. It's not true.
No lah, I'm not.
Okay. Okay. So that is actually a very mythical misconception about the Bugis ladies, and also Bugis as a whole. Yeah, because our identity has been ingrained to other people that we are very, very abrupt, we're very fierce, we don't talk so much. But when we talk, we are very aggressive. So
yeah, that I believe.
So every community have the perception towards this Bugis, and I'm sure there are also other misconceptions of other community, the Javanese, the Minangs, the Boyanese. They have their own misconception. So I think it's all about understanding and trust. If you find that person is okay, then you can move forward or can live with him. So this myth will still carry on. Will still be in our mind. Like they say the Hakka speak very loud, the Teochew very, very outspoken. So these are the things that has been ingrained to us. So it's up to us to connect or otherwise. So talking about the Bugis being garang or fierce, perhaps some of them, but if you look at me, I'm very, very easygoing. Okay, next question.
So shall we have one more last question from Faizal Ahmad? He raised his hand.
Yes, Faizal.
Hi, Sarafian.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for all the effort that you have put in.
Thank you, Faizal.
I congratulate you for all the things that you have done.
My best.
question for you is, during the course of finding or exploring your genealogy, the identity of the Bugis, what is your biggest obstacle that you have faced?
Good question.
Yeah.
Actually, I had lots of obstacles. I had some family members who wants to disown me. I had some family members who asked you to stay far away and don't come back. I have family members who gave false information. Some people who say to me in Chinese, say "K-kiang," X-smart.
Yeah.
So it's a very tough journey. Okay, but I'm not going to scare you. Please, I hope you all don't feel scared and don't do your genealogy after this talk. Okay,
Wow.
You must do. The thing is, when you do your lineage, it's very, very simple. Okay, like now, after this, you can do your lineage. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I lost everyone.
No.
Okay,
Continue.
you see, when you do a genealogy, the lineage is very simple. Okay, the grandfather, father. But once it comes to cousins or grandparents, you realize that there are certain people who don't talk to each other. Okay, I'm speaking of myself. Okay, I'm not paiseh, I just share. So people who don't talk here, because in family, so there are lots of politics, especially when it comes to, don't say that. So it's a big challenge. It's a very big challenge. So sometimes the story that I get came from friends, came from people who know my great-grandfather Daing Dasin, the police officer, the Garang one. Okay, some people say he's different. He's a very nice guy. He's very congenial, very generous. So challenges, definitely there are challenges. If you really want to go deeper into history, there are certain things that you don't mention. There are certain things that it's a past, really the past. Don't mention. Some people don't want to talk. Or these people don't want to talk. Normally they have lots of juice in them. So I suggest if these people who are very quiet, you just write about them. Okay, you can write they're very quiet. You just write. And the most important thing is that you speak to them before it's too late. Before they pass away, you better just meet them. See, for me, I know there's this guy called, in Facebook, it's called Intan Legam. I know he's very, very knowledgeable in political. And lots of stories about my family, Pulau Tekong, is hidden. No? It's hidden because he was once a pro-Temenggung, pro the Johor Sultan. No? So his story was a lot hidden, and I actually discovered why, which I'm going to share with you in a different presentation. So these stories are very, very intriguing, very disturbing, reverberates the soul. But it's very interesting because when I was looking for the history of my family, Pulau Tekong, I discovered the history of Pulau Tekong itself. Before it became an army depot, it was once a Portuguese stronghold, was once a Dutch stronghold, was once it was a busy port, was a busy thing. And some people say the Pulau Tekong, because of it being a shipyard, no? It was called Pulau Tukang. Tukang means to repair. So the names actually evolved. If you look at the names of the Singapore map, if you look at the names of the streets in Singapore, some of them might be related to your family. You'll be very surprised. And one way is to do genealogy. Okay, I'm not selling koyo, genealogy, but genealogy is the most important tool you can use to identify the history of a family and the history of a country. So challenges are there, definitely. Yeah, it's how you take it.
So Sarafian also mentioned some of his challenges and obstacles, compiling his genealogy, and along the way also found many interesting culture and history as well.
Yes.
Right. So we shall conclude here, but before this, let's take. Okay, you may want to look at our Facebook group by searching Genealogy Society Singapore. And you can find out more about our latest event through this Facebook group. You can also look at our website, to learn more about our society, and also inquire about our membership. Right. So we shall end our talk for today. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Attending.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarafian.
Thank you all my friends who attended, my cousins. Thank you.